guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to do a little bit of a different video regarding running. Now I have mentioned several times that my husband and I have done a bunch of half marathons. I think we've done like 10-ish now, some of which have been at Disney World and most of which have not. We're currently training for our third Disney race, which is going to be the Disney Princess Half Marathon in 2019. We did the Disney Princess Half Marathon in 2018, and then we did a Wine and Dine Half Marathon in, does it say? I happen to have a medal here. In 2014. So I have learned a lot about running in this regard, and the reason I wanted to do this video is because a lot of people have goals, aspirations, whatever you want to call them, to do either a half marathon or their first half marathon in Disney World, because the Disney Princess Half Marathon specifically, it's very, very popular. It's very famous as far as being like one of the most fun half marathons you can do. However, a lot of people who want to do this are not runners, and I am most certainly not a runner, even though I've done so many races. So I thought maybe I could help you guys out a little bit. So the first tips are not just Disney specific, but I'll get into some Disney specific tips at the end. So the first one is don't focus on what's right, focus on what's right for you. So when you're gonna start running, absolutely read everything you can in terms of training plans and what's recommended. Runner's World is probably, the Runner's World website is probably where I got most of my information from. However, those are just guidelines, and I think it's important to give yourself the permission to deviate from that. For example, I've read a lot about the benefits of running early in the morning and how you can become an early morning person so that you can run and then it helps you burn calories throughout the day and so on and so forth. I tried this for years. It wasn't until we were almost ready to run the Wine and Dine Half Marathon, which occurs at night. It's at like 10:30 at night, that I thought maybe I should try running at night, because that's when the race is going to take place, and I want to make sure, you know, I felt like I should run at night at least a couple of times before the race. And that's when I discovered it was so much easier for me to run at night. Running in the morning, for some reason, my legs are just super, super stiff. And they just feel really heavy no matter how much stretching and foam rolling I do. So that's when I discovered running at night works for me. Now, people might say, you know, oh, but you burn more calories throughout the day if you run in the morning. Okay, but this is what you got to do to get it done. So use your common sense, but do what's right for you. Additionally, you will probably come across a lot of articles telling you what to eat and when you should eat it before a race or before a long run. Certainly try that out, but like I said before, do what works for you. So experiment well before the race so you can figure out what works and what doesn't. I have a very sensitive stomach, and so I've learned the types of things that really make a difference for me in terms of, is this gonna bother me or is it not? Now my husband, it doesn't impact him at all. He could do anything. Doesn't need to stretch, he could eat anything and then go out and run 10 miles and be totally fine. But I think he's kind of an anomaly like that. So for me, this is hard. I really have to try. And these are just the things that I've learned that works for me. So experiment how far ahead of time you're going to eat. For me, I try at least 2 hours ahead of time. And then make sure you have, you know, like something fairly bland, and then a good balance of carbs and protein. My second tip is to learn the proper exercises and stretches and get a foam roller. I had IT band issues. Like at one point, my left IT band, they were pretty severe. Like I was limping downstairs. It was awful. And I went to physical therapy for it. And it wasn't until years later, where I was actually at physical therapy for something else, that the therapist, who just happened to be a runner, told me, oh, it's because your gluteus medius muscle is too weak. Do this exercise and then you won't have any IT band issues. Sure enough, I've been suffering like unnecessarily, and I'm like, why didn't other people tell me this? So figure out what you have to do, read up, learn about all these different exercises. Again, Runner's World is a great resource for that you can do to help prevent and treat any kind of overuse injury you might have. Get a foam roller. Absolutely get a foam roller. It hurts, but if you do it from the beginning, it's not going to be, it hurts if you wait until you have an injury to foam roll. Do it from the beginning, do it before a run, after a run. It makes such a difference. And you can get a foam roller at Walmart, Target, any sporting goods store. You can get them a ton of places. And they come in different densities. I do recommend a fairly dense one. That's just my experience. I have a big one, and then I have a smaller travel one that I got specifically for the last Disney Princess Half Marathon, because the first Disney race we did, I did not have a foam roller, and I really, really missed it. So get a foam roller for sure. My third tip is find a way to bring liquid with you, whether it is a handheld water bottle. You can get ones that strap around your hand so you don't actually physically have to focus on carrying it. You can get a water belt, you can get a Camelback. Try something and make sure you get a water bottle. Now, we have a belt. My husband and I each have a belt. We always run together. And the belt really, really irritates my stomach. I feel like to keep it from bouncing, just with the way, because women's hips are wider and then their waists are smaller, you have to have it really tight. And then it was bothering my stomach. So my husband carries it. Thank God. I'm so thankful for him. He wears his belt, and then we share the water. And in the summer, when the bathrooms at the park are open and the water is on, where we run around, we'll stop and refill it. If it is winter, like it is now, we drive and then run around this area. We drive from our home to the park, run around there, and then drive back home. Just because we don't have a lot of sidewalks in our area, and because we run at night, that's not super safe. So I will have backup water bottles in our car, and then we'll stop and switch out water bottles and then keep going. But definitely figure out how to bring liquid. I had read at one point, again, I'm sure it was from Runner's World, that if you're running for more than 45 minutes, you need to bring liquid. More than 60 minutes, you need to bring some kind of sports energy drink, like Gatorade or something like that. And then if you're running more than 75 minutes, then you need to think about bringing some kind of goo gels or shot blocks or something like that for refueling. So that's kind of sort of the guideline that I follow. For me, if it's more than 7 or 8 miles, I would say that's when we start bringing Gatorade. And if we are running at, I would say more than 9 miles, is when I start bringing some kind of energy chews or goo gels or something like that. So figure out what works for you, but those are the recommendations that I read about online. Fourth tip is regarding attire. Spend the money on good shoes. Do not cheap out when it comes to shoes. Our shoes are, if we get them for less than $100, that is cheap. You can spend there's no limit to how expensive they are, but I don't think I've never spent more than 150. I don't think I've ever, even maybe 140 was the most expensive pair I've gotten, but then I've gotten it on sale. I want to say our running shoes are usually between 100 and 120, and you can get some pretty good shoes in that price point. Get fitted for shoes at a running shoe store, where they will watch you walk and run to determine what type of shoe, what type of insert you might need. When it comes to the rest of your clothes, you can cheap out. I do still recommend getting moisture wicking clothes, but it doesn't have to be a certain brand or super high quality. Don't wear cotton. That it's just gonna be super heavy and it's not moisture wicking at all. So still get moisture wicking clothes. You can get them from Walmart or Target, anywhere really. But I have not found that a certain brand or quality works. You can get super cheap shirts for less than $10. You can get a very nice moisture wicking shirt, but just make sure it is moisture wicking and spend the money on shoes instead. My fifth tip is to train with the drinks and energy supplements that will be provided by the race. Now, when we run a race in our area, they always give us Gatorade and goo gels. That's very standard. That is not the same in Disney World. So you can look that up online or wherever you're running a race and see what they will be providing if you're concerned you might have a sensitive stomach issue, or any other kind of issue, I suppose, be it allergies or something. Try it. Now, this is not something my husband would ever even consider. It wouldn't bother him in the least, but it's something that I have thought about because, again, I have a super sensitive stomach and I don't want to be worried about being sidelined or having to walk because of these stomach cramps because I didn't know that, I don't know, like Powerade or something, really irritates my stomach. It doesn't. But my point is, try it out ahead of time so that you're not going to have any surprises on race day. 6th tip is to train with somebody if possible. My husband and I always run together. He's definitely running slower for me. He can absolutely run faster without me, but the only reason he's doing it is because of me. I wanted to do a half marathon and nobody else would do it with me. And he's like, fine, I will, I suppose. He was worried about me getting stolen or something if I was off running by myself. But it really has helped. He helps me in the lower miles when I'm really struggling. And then my strong suit is more in the upper miles and to keep going, after, 9, 10 miles is when he's like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can keep going. I'm like, yes, you can. We only have another mile left or whatever. So it does really help to have somebody. It's not crucial, but if you do have that option, definitely take it. My 7th tip that is not Disney specific is to run a 5 or 10K before you do a half marathon. If you've never done a race before, this isn't a requirement, that's why it's just a tip, but if you've never done a race before at all, I would recommend doing a 5K and then a 10K and then a half marathon. And that kind of will help you to get a sense of what you can expect on race day. Now things are obviously done differently. The longer the distance is, you're going to have like a 5K, you might not have any water stations. You might have one, where as opposed to a half marathon where you're going to have a bunch of water and energy drink stations. You're going to have an energy supplement station where you have like Goo Gels or Shot Blocks. You're going to have Cliff Shots. You're going to have a bunch of aid stations. It's going to be different, but I think you really get a sense of what you can expect, and then you just learn a lot, and it's fun too. And I have also read that there's actually, once you are to the point where you're consistently like running half marathons and marathons, you still benefit from running a 5 or 10K race because you just naturally run faster in a race setting than you would when you're just training. So I think that's interesting. So definitely try it. I highly, highly recommend it. Okay, so some of my more Disney specific thoughts, or I should say my thoughts specifically on Disney races, is most of the race is not in the parks. So there's not going to be spectators or entertainment for the majority of the race. Most of it is going to be on highways and back roads. For the Wine and Dine Half Marathon, things can change, but usually, and what was the case when we ran in 2014 for the Wine and Dine Half Marathon, we ran through Animal Kingdom, Hollywood Studios, and Epcot. We did not go through Magic Kingdom. And then for the Disney Princess Half Marathon, we went through Magic Kingdom and Epcot. We did not go through Hollywood Studios and Animal Kingdom. That being said, we were in the Magic Kingdom for like maybe a mile and a half. I don't think it was 2 miles. At most, it was 2 miles. That definitely is the highlight of the race. It was so cool to see when you're going down Main Street and the lights are still on because it was still pretty dark. It was very, very cool to see. But just keep that in mind. For your expectations, most of the race is on the highway or on back roads where there are no spectators and there's no entertainment. They do have character stops at like each mile marker where you can stop and take pictures with them. We did not choose to take pictures, but a lot of people do and wait in line to do so. Like I said, a lot of people do this as their first race. And I can see why a lot of people would want to do that because there's no pressure to like accomplish a certain goal time-wise because people do stop and wait in line to take pictures. That said, you do have to keep in mind that there is a minimum pace. So you need to maintain a 16-minute per mile pace. They recommend you train at a 15-minute per mile pace, and that is for the last corral. They have the balloon ladies that walk at the very end, and they have these like helium balloons behind them. And if they pass you, at certain points. If they pass you, then they sweep you up. So like they come with the bus and you have to get on and you cannot finish. Now, if you're in the front and you're running at, say, a 12-minute mile pace, you have quite a bit more time because there's like a minute or two between corrals, and then there's so many corrals. So keep that in mind. If you're at the end, you're not going to be stopping to take pictures. If you're at the end and you're slow, you're not going to be stopping to take pictures because there's just no time. But if you're at the beginning, you definitely have the time to take some pictures. I don't know how long those lines are, but some of them, I mean, how long in terms of time the wait is, but some of them are pretty long. I was kind of surprised. But like I said, we've never stopped to take pictures, but a ton of people do. In terms of age, if you're wondering if you can run with your child, or if you're a kid and you're wondering if you can run, for the Disney Princess Half Marathon and the Disney Fairy Tale Challenge, you need to be 14 years or older. Now for the shorter distances, you can be younger, but if you want to do a half marathon, if you want to do the Disney Fairy Tale Challenge, you have to be 14 years or older. And Disney has challenges, if you're not familiar, where you run a race of a different distance on different days throughout that weekend. So like you might, if you do a 5K, a 10K, and then a half marathon, that's one challenge. Or if you do a 10K, a half marathon, and a full marathon, that's another challenge. For Disney Princess Half Marathon Weekend, they don't have a full marathon, but they do for the Disney World Marathon Weekend, obviously, as the name implies. But that's what challenges are, is when you can run multiple races of different lengths over the course of that weekend, and then you get a race medal for each individual race, and then you get a medal for completing the challenge as well. But if you want to do the half marathon or the Disney Fairy Tale Challenge, you need to be 14 years or older. Lastly, you need to be present to pick up your own race bib. Now, the last time they allowed you to pick up somebody else's race packet with their bib was when we did the Wine and Dine Half Marathon in 2014. And you had to like sign your life away and have a copy of somebody's, of that person's driver's license, etc. You no longer can do that. You need to be present to collect your own race packet. So plan accordingly. And you also need to be there to pick up your race packet prior to the race. So the day of the Disney Princess Half Marathon, there is no packet pickup. So we need to be there on Saturday to pick up our race packet before they close. And I want to say they're open until 3. So we need to be there before then. So we're flying in late on Friday night to give us enough of a buffer to do so. Because if our plane landed at, noon on Saturday, we'd be screwed if we're taking Disney transportation, because we'd have to go to our hotel, then take the bus from our hotel to the ESPN Wide World of Sports where they have the race packets, and it would be too late at that point. So keep that in mind and plan accordingly. You must pick up your own race packet, and depending on the race, there may or may not be day of packet pickup. So that's very, very important. You also cannot transfer or sell bibs. So make sure you're really going to do it if you sign up for it, because you're kind of stuck with it. And it's expensive. It's like $200 a person. So make sure you're committed. Talk to whoever you're going to do it with. Make sure they're committed before you actually sign up for it. So those are my tips in terms of running both in Disney and outside of Disney, the things I've learned. Like I said, I'm not a runner. It's very hard for me. I keep doing it. I don't know why. I'm kind of crazy. I don't enjoy it, but I do keep doing it, and I've learned quite a few things. So if I can do it, you absolutely can do it too. It's really just mind over matter. At some point, you get to the point where it's all mental and it's not physical. So if I can do it, you can too. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you next time. Bye, guys.